Hello, hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. If you are on break, welcome to break. If you are still facing down the last week of school before break, you can do it. I have so much faith. You can get there. We are getting to break. It is coming. It is coming. I wanted to step back a moment and sort of share some of the musings that I've been thinking about over the last couple of weeks. Some of the things that I've been talking about in here, the conversations I've been having with lots of different people over the last couple of weeks, which all comes down to this kind of connection between we have our data and our graphs, and we have the questions that we're trying to answer from those data, investigate the data to explore and inquire about and be curious about those questions. And it's a balance. It's a play back and forth between having a question into our data and then looking at the data, and data usually generate more questions, and that is fantastic. That is because data are a tool, graphs are a tool that we use as we are exploring and gathering information and actively engaging our brains to think about what is going on in this line of inquiry that we have. Sometimes we're given data and we are asked questions about the data. We are very good at doing this with our learners. Dun, 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 dun. Another moment of Kristen sharing out work that is coming home from school. I just want to pause and say, thank you, all you wonderful teachers that are teaching my children how to make sense of data and work with data. Okay, so with that caveat of like, and thank you for all of you for all that you are doing for everybody else's littles that are in the K-12 system. It takes a village, and oh man, we are part of the village, and so are so many others. Invite them to come join the Facebook group or join us on social, follow us on LinkedIn, wherever you are watching. Join us, come in, bring more. Rising tide lifts all boats. Okay, so with that out of the way, here is something that my fifth grader just brought home. My fifth grader is in this like deep unit of thinking about data in math class. Okay, so what they have is they have a pie chart of different kinds of cakes. Here's this nice little cake shop to show them what they're working on. And they're working with what we now call circle graphs, what those of us used to call pie charts, and some of us still do call pie charts, all of these things. But it's a circular way of looking at parts of a whole. We're looking at a composition question. So the framing of this activity that the students were working on was the circle graph shows data about the cake sold at a bake sale. Study the graph and answer the questions below. And then my child and every other child that was prompted with this worksheet has a range of different questions, like what fraction of sales are strawberry cakes, and which cake sold half as much as carrot cakes. All of these great questions that are tying their understanding of fractions, adding multiple fractions, least common denominator, all of these super important components on that number sense, numeracy sense of fractions, which lends itself so well to our circle graphs and our parts of a whole, our composition questions that we have with data. And so there's some like just straight lookup questions, like you can look at the pie chart and figure out what fraction are strawberry cakes. But then there are some like, okay, you got to think and you got to pull two pieces together types of questions. But all of these questions that we are asking our students from this graph, so questions and graph, there's the connection. All the questions that our students are being asked here is look up or think about what you can look up in this graph in terms of certain components, fractions that they're given, different physical components in the graph. And this is wonderful. This is really important to help our students make sense of what are the pieces, what are the components, how a graph represents values, and how we can extract those values out of the graph. But I have to say, I stood back and I was like, oh, this is so excited, right? Proud mama moment, super excited data nerd mama moment, as I am like looking at what my kid did with this graph. And then I sit there and I was like, Well, but why are we looking at cake sold from bake sales? Why are we interested in these data? What are we trying to figure out? Why does it matter how many different cakes were sold at the bake sale? What might a question be? What might a curiosity, a line of inquiry be that we would have about cakes at a bake sale? And this is one of the things that I think comes at the crux of helping our students, yes, learn how to execute and make a graph. Yes, learn how to extract information out of the graph. All of those data skills are super critical and super important. But we look at data for a purpose, not just to be told what the data shows us at the generic level of a like cake sold at a bake sale. But data is a tool. Graphs are a tool to help us explore something. So, what might that question be? Maybe it's like, which was our favorite, which was the favorite cake of everyone who came to the bake sale? Maybe it's, do people like fruit cakes better than chocolate based cakes? Maybe it's how many cakes total did we sell? Which we could figure out maybe from this, but not actually, because we just have the fractions of the total. And so then it's like, what proportion of our cakes were, had sugar in them, had gluten in them? What are we looking for from the data? I'm just riffing here. I'm throwing out different ideas, different questions. But this connects in to the conversations that I'm having with science teachers about how helping science students in their science classes work with data. It connects to the conversations I'm having with kindergarten teachers of how we can get students working with data in kindergarten. It connects to the conversations I'm having with high school social studies teachers of how we can get students beyond just like reading numbers off a graph, but really seeing what this data indicates about what was happening at that moment in time that the graph came from. This relates to the conversations that I'm having with many, many TOSA supervisors, administrators, principals, superintendents at this moment about state assessment data. There is the extraction questions, but there are also the purpose, what are we going for type questions. Now, I want to say, I am not saying that this is wrong. This is great. This teaches really important skills, but it is a component of the skills. And so this graph question connection plays out in multiple different ways. And how are we across all of our learning experiences creating those opportunities so that our students are, yes, practicing these look up, extract out type of questions from data, but are also going into data with questions, into data with a purpose for what we are using this tool, the data or the visualization for. So just some thoughts. Would love to hear what you think about this, how you're helping your students think about this data question connection, what they're struggling with, what they're excelling at. Let us know. Super excited to hear more and learn from you all. And I also deeply hope that you have a wonderful, restful break in whatever way you choose to spend it. We'll have one more live stream next week, and then dun, 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 oh my goodness, we'll see you in 2024. Bye all. Have a good afternoon.